Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Roaring Bengals podcast. I'm Kelly Prestipino, and today we're going to be talking about the future of media and its effect on our democracy with a few Gen Z members to see what their take is on these topics and how it's going to affect their future. So I'll let my first guest introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Lucas Prestipino. I'm 17, and I'll be a rising senior here.
Where do you go to school, Lucas?
I go to Fuquay Arena High School.
Okay. Um, how are you currently involved with the media?
Right now, last year, I was the editor in chief of the Roaring Bengals newspaper, um, and I'm going to continue that this coming up year.
So, how do you personally get your news and information? How do you inform yourself?
So as much as I would like to say that I get all my news from nice scholarly sources and get it only from, big news outlets that say everything that you're, supposed to hear, it's really I see something on like TikTok or Instagram, and then I take that, and instead of, I know people who that they just take that at face value, but I try to then, if it's something that sounds like it could be real, then I'll take it and I'll Google something about it, and then I'll look at, a bigger news source. But the only way that I learn about it to begin with is if someone on some big creator on social media decides it's important enough to make a video about.
That's interesting. So, you mentioned that you don't trust TikTok on face value, but do you trust the traditional news sources on face value?
I would say generally I would trust most major news sources because they got to follow all like the rules and stuff, because if they don't follow all the rules, then they could be in a bad situation with lawsuits and all that. But like, I mean, TikTok, no one's gonna go out and sue some random guy on TikTok. But they could. I mean, news outlets, they would get easily sued for making stuff up or over exaggerating.
Okay, so do you believe that there is an implicit media bias in the different news outlets? Like people say, oh, this one news outlet is leans this way politically, and this other news outlet leans the other way politically. Do you think that's a thing, and is that something that you incorporate when you're trying to figure out the trustworthiness of your news?
I generally do think that that's a thing. Agree that some news outlets lean one way, some lean the other, and um, what I like to do is, I mean, I know there's a few like new like websites and stuff. They try to like take stories and be as unbiased as possible. And sometimes I'll look at those, but they have a little bit of bias to themselves, even though that's like their whole goal. But I'll try to go um, like to a couple different sources before I like try to form my own opinion or determine if something's real or not.
Okay, so going back to the social media and influence and content creators, do you think that in the future those kind of people are going to be more important than journalists for people that are your age?
I feel like right now for people who are my age, we definitely get our news more from um, like content creators and people on the internet more than we do from these major news outlets. Um, there's this uh, there's this one guy on TikTok, and he's his whole thing is that he's a news guy. He reports on the news, but he's totally independent. Like he only does TikTok. He's not part of any major news source, um, like some of them are. And he's gotten to the point where he's getting like invited to major press conferences and stuff, and like he can go to them and then makes his TikToks about it, which I think might be the direction that we end up going into, which is a lot of independent people, rather than these big companies. I think they'll still be around, and I think they'll still have their TV shows, and some of them have social media stuff, but I don't think they're going to be as big as the independent um, influencers are going to be.
So how do we regulate that? You said that TikTok's like the wild wild west. They don't have any rules, whereas journalists have. They've been to school and they understand what the rules are. Um, so how do you think that should be regulated?
Um, well, it's hard because of how big it is. TikTok, how big it is. Because there can be random people who get like 100 views and they can say whatever, and then that even that just can spread into bigger and bigger stuff. So it's hard for even I guess something as big of a company behind the scenes it is to regulate that, and I think that's why it comes really down to the people watching it rather than the companies and the creators. As much as I in a perfect world, the news companies and the creators should have and morally should be putting out factual stuff and not blowing things out of proportion. I think it's just really important for the the everyday person to be able to look at a video and be like, this is obviously not a real thing that happened, or they're blowing this way out of proportion, and be able to look at different sources and figure out what's really going on.
So how do you think this future that you're predicting will affect the future of our country's democracy? Like, how is this going to affect politics and how people shape their opinions of who they should vote for and what's right and wrong?
I think it's going to end up leading to um, a lot more people on the extremes. I don't. One of the big things about TikTok is it boosts, and really any social media, it boosts videos based off of how much engagement they're getting. So, and this could be either negative or positive, but anyone who sees them is only seeing the videos that people are engaging with, and the videos that get the most engagement are videos that either people completely disagree with or completely agree with. Nothing in the middle is going to be boosted as much as those kinds of videos. Um, so I think people are going to see a lot more of these extreme videos, and the creators, they already know that that's the kind of videos that get pushed out the most. So they're already making their videos so that um, more people will engage with them because of the craziness of it, which easily leads to extreme political views by people because they think that that's normal because that's all they see. They just see, oh, it's normal to be on the far one side or the far the other side, you know.
All right, so let's wrap this up with we've talked about the future of media and the direction that things are going. What do you think, as the editor in chief of the Roaring Bengals, that we need to be doing in order to keep up with the times?
The biggest thing I think we need to do there is build up our internet presence. So, I mean, right now, we are a website. We don't print or anything. But the problem I have with it being a website is that no one really knows about it that much. And that's why I think we need to do a little bit more on Instagram. I know we have an account there, and we have some followers, and we post pretty regularly during the school year. But most of the followers on that account are either, alumni of the program or, um, you know, people who are currently in the newspaper, and that's not exactly a great thing. So I think we need to post more frequently, post more frequently on Instagram, and post more engaging content, more stuff that people will be interested in. And I think that might mean, having some stories just be like mainly an Instagram thing. Like maybe we have, you know, there's one person and all they do is they read some stories or something and post it on the Instagram or on a TikTok as a video, and that's just what it is. Because I feel like it's a lot easier to make a platform if people know it exists and can see it and are interested in it, and people aren't going to be interested in, oh, there's a link. Like that's not super interesting. So I feel like we definitely need to build up our presence, and yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your thoughts and insights today, Lucas.
Yep, it was great.
And now we'll have our next guest. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Certainly. My name is Samuel Prestipino, and I'm a 20-year-old junior at the University of Alabama.
How are you involved with the media currently?
Well, I am currently the sports editor of the Crimson White student newspaper down at UA, and I am the football beat writer.
Is that what you want to do with your life?
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely want to work in the college football sports media space, whether that be a beat writer, a podcaster, anything like that. Definitely want to stay in this field that I'm currently working in.
Okay, so as a Gen Zer and a journalism student, you'll have a unique perspective on this, but where do you get your news information from? Like, what sources do you have to make yourself an informed citizen?
I'd like to say that I watch the news a lot, but that's just not true. I think a lot of people like myself, we're on X a lot, on Instagram, sometimes TikTok. Gotta kind of watch out for that kind of stuff though, because some of that's not really real news. But kind of being able to sift through what's real and what's fake on those sites is definitely an important skill. So I think definitely those outlets are definitely probably where I would see my news the most.
So, do you trust traditional news outlets like TV news and newspapers, or do you trust social media more?
I don't really trust either of them. Quite frankly, I think there's a lot of bias out there in the news today, and I think that there's definitely some things that are skewed certain ways in today's media. But it's just kind of getting all viewpoints from all the different outlets to kind of best form an opinion.
So, do you think that's an important skill for people your age to have? Is the ability to judge sources and their credibility?
Well, absolutely. I think especially on something like TikTok or Instagram, what what they show you is what you want to see, right? There's an algorithm. So if you lean one way on some issue, you're only going to see things that tear down some other side and build up your side. So being able to kind of see facts for facts is definitely an important skill for today's younger generation.
So, do you think that influencers and content creators are going to become more important than journalists in the future?
Well, I think that they're even today kind of becoming more integrated. I think you have people who try to be both, and I think that they'll kind of mesh together. Um, Being able to make short videos and that kind of stuff, and being a quote unquote influencer, that that's a big skill that a lot of journalists even have today. So that I think that the two things are kind of go more hand in hand than one replace the other.
Okay, so you're going to school for a degree in journalism, and you're spending this time learning about the ethics and laws that surround the field of journalism. But these content creators and influencers, um, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. How do you feel about that? How is that going to work in the future if we're leaning towards more social media news production? How does that?
Well, I think a lot of it is that that needs to be taught more in universities and in high schools, is how to properly like operate as a social media journalist or like an influencer. That's something that I don't know is it's starting to get taught a lot more, but it's going to be, I think, vital for the future. And I mean, you're still going to have people that, I mean, it's free. You know, you're going to turn on, you can open the app and make a video anytime you want on TikTok or something. So that's still going to happen. But I think that if it's taught, like ethics through social media is taught more in schools, I think that that's going to have a lot more value than someone who can just turn on their phone and record a video and just spout opinions and maybe things that aren't true.
So, how do you think that this future of media will affect our country's future democracy?
Well, I think, like I said earlier, the algorithms are a really big issue. I think that, especially of these last few election cycles, right? Like it's a really big thing. I know on people's TikToks and people's Instagrams and everything, and Twitter or X, you're getting shown what you want to see. If you lean one way, you're going to be driven more that way. So I think an even more divided society is going to be the result of these algorithms and of these social media outlets.
So, in 20 years, what do you think that the main source of news will be?
I think the main source of news, I mean, I think you're seeing it, is becoming more social media. I think a lot of people's news is still going to be dependent on that. I think we're still going to have X as a big thing, whatever form that takes. I think, TikTok's kind of going through is it going to be banned? Is it not going to be banned? I think TikTok is probably going to be a really big thing because it already is. Like these news outlets I see all the time, NBC, CBS, Fox News, CNN, all these different outlets that basically have news stories in shortened form on TikTok. So I think something like TikTok is definitely the future of news.
And my last question for you is, so this is your future. You want to be a journalist. How do you think that this is going to affect your future career?
I think it's going to make me have to kind of adapt a little bit more and get better at different skills like editing, making videos, being present on an app like TikTok, having a social media following and a presence. I think, it's not going to be easy to be one of these guys that just writes. You're going to have to be able to have some sort of voice. You're going to have to be able to, have a face that's out there and be able to speak on topics rather than just write. I think beat writers are going to slowly start turning into, content creators, if you will, that are reporting little short videos on their phone in addition to their writing. So I think definitely just being able to adapt to doing that kind of thing is how I'll have to kind of approach this world.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for tuning in and listening. You can look forward to another episode next week. But meanwhile, you can check out roaringbengals.com and read some of the articles that we have posted there. Have a great day.